Go for it.
All right, welcome to How to Write a Resume 101. How to elevate your job search with your resume. My name is Franklin Buchanan. I'm a certified professional career coach. It's always been my job to put the right talent in front of the right company. And with that has always been resume writing. I work on both sides of the hiring process, with candidates and hiring managers. So now I take that knowledge of the resume, of the hiring process, and help my clients with resume writing, LinkedIn profile development, cover letters, and career vision. Before we can talk about building a resume, we need to define what a resume is. And then we put it together. And then I'll take any questions that you'll have. So can anyone here define what a resume is for me?
Your professional work.
Story, professional work. It's your sales piece.
Okay.
It's what gets you callbacks.
It's a brag book.
It's a brag book. I like that. It's a success story bank. Ooh, that's what I like. But the reality of what a resume typically is it's just a bulleted list of tasks and responsibilities. That's 90% of the resumes that I see. Every job, 6-7 bullets. This is what I do on a daily basis. But before you can put it together, before you can elevate it, you need to define who you're writing it for. Who is the audience that you're writing a resume for? Recruiters, hiring managers, and software. An applicant tracking system that's going to scan, sort, and filter your resume. So the question becomes, how do we elevate it? How do we take a bulleted list of tasks and responsibilities and get it through artificial intelligence and impact the human eye, which is going to look at it for 6 seconds? ATS, applicant tracking system. What is it? Most people think it's this all-knowing AI that just kicks your resume out of the system like Kai Kroger at Plentiful. There's some truth to that. Most people think you have to stuff your resume with keywords, but the reality is that keywords are just a small part of it. Very few people are getting kicked out because of lack of keywords. They're getting filtered because of keywords. But the ATS is, yes, it's artificial intelligence, but it's operated by a human. So the keyword search that is going to kick you out is input by a human being. So what does get you kicked out if most people are making it through? It's formatting. You always want to make sure your resume does not have any tables, text boxes, graphics, images. And don't put a picture on your resume. You want a single column layout, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. A dual column layout's one with education, credentials, certifications, skills on one side, and then work experience on another. Those don't typically parse well. You always want to use a Word doc or a Google Doc with your online applications. Applicant tracking systems read text. So if you apply with a PDF, oftentimes it can't scan that. Now, most companies, when you're applying online now, not most companies, some companies are telling you what format to use. But if it's not specified, always use the Word doc or the Google Doc. And read through the job description to pick up on keywords.
Right. So a lot of this is driven to key more of electronic or an entity that's looking for keywords rather than one specific person.
It's both. And that's where the descriptors that I talked about, the bulleted list of tasks and responsibilities, that's important content. And I'll get to that in a second. That descriptor piece, though, is mostly for the system. The human's looking for your accomplishments.
Right.
Now, that's a terrifying sight. Like, it's dreadful. The reality is, most of you are not going to start with this. Most people have some sort of a resume already. And so we're going to take my resume as an example. I've taken my resume. My 4-year-old says toke whenever she says somebody took something from me. So I took my resume and I put it in that bulleted list of tasks and responsibilities layout. So we're going to look at this for 6 seconds and I want you to tell me what you pick up. Anybody anything out of that?
6 seconds now. Someone worked in Aiken. That's what
Yeah.
The very top.
That's what I got.
You got the very top, so you got my contact info, right? You saw my name,
Yeah, job titles.
job titles. Is that helpful? I mean, if I'm looking for a certain job title, okay, maybe. But it's just, it's not. And so how do we start? How do we start writing a resume that's compelling and impactful? When you're writing something, whether it's resume, LinkedIn profile, poem, book, thank you note, love letter to your wife, you always want to start with what you know. And what you know is your contact information, your education, and the descriptive content that you already have. Your contact information, I'm going to hypocrite myself because it's on the bottom of this slide, but your contact information always belongs at the top of the resume. You want to have your name, your location, just your location, not your address. That's a security risk, especially if you post it on the internet, on Indeed or Career Builder. Phone number, email, LinkedIn address. Those are the things that recruiters are going to look for in your contact information. Top of the resume, not on the side, not on the bottom, top. Education, where do we put it? Mine's at the bottom, but the question that you want to ask yourself is what's most relevant. I was looking at Kelly's resume just a minute ago, and she's gotten a lot of good internships recently, and a lot of good, relevant experience where she wants to go. And that might be more important up top than her resume. And so the question that you want to ask yourself is, what is most relevant and where? Got my Go Gamecocks, school certifications underneath. With your certifications, you want to have the issuing organization and the date that you got it. Dates are not important for your education if you're more than 5 years out of college. Now, here comes the descriptive bullet piece. Look at this slide. It's like no resume. It's hard to read. Too many bullet points is hard to scan, as you just all saw. But we don't want to just cut that content, because think about what a job description is. It's describing something. So your descriptive content has good keywords that we want to use. But you don't need a bunch of different bullet points for it. I mean, seriously. Good. See my head there. You want to condense the descriptive content to high-level, actionable bullet points. I'm going to show you. This is an example from when I worked at Find Great People, recruiting company here. How I've condensed what would be account management, sales, recruiting, business development, requisition qualification, negotiations, candidate presentation, interview process. That's 8 bullets that most people have, condensed to a 3-line summary. Think about the space that we're saving. 8 lines, now it's 3. But the keywords are still there. Account management, recruiting, sales, business development, negotiating. So we're not losing descriptive content keywords when we cut it. We're still keeping that. We're just taking away a lot of the excess. So what do we do with bullet points? It's not all paragraphs. You want your bullet points. If the descriptive paragraph is for the applicant tracking system keyword search, your bullet points are for the human eye that's going to look at your resume for 6 seconds. And you can see how I've laid mine out from my time at FGP. 3 consecutive sales activity, 4,000 weekly margin, double C profitability. Numbers, 50 new accounts, numbers. Numbers are resume gold. Quantify as best you can. You'll notice 1-3, the numeral 3, not the word. Our English teachers cringe, right? You're taught in English, if it's under 10, you spell it out. But what is a resume? It's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. In that dance of the eyes, in that 6-second resume test, how we cut through text with numbers. What's missing from those last 2 bullets?
Numbers.
Yeah. Get grip, right? Here's the thing. Most people don't always have those numbers. Most people don't know that they saved 26% supply chain costs by renegotiating multiple vendor contracts. I don't remember what those numbers are. But it's still actionable. It's still results focused. It still demonstrates skills. And so if you don't have the numbers, you don't have to panic. You can still quantify that with what you've done. Reduce supply chain costs, or let's get more actionable, slash supply chain costs by renegotiating multiple vendor contracts. Now let's put it together.
Franklin, you good? I'm here.
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Look how much cleaner that looks.
Water.
Right.
Look how much cleaner that looks. Doesn't it? It's structured well. It's impactful. I like to use bold and italics to further that eye dance. Personal preference, not completely necessary. How often do we do this for? Lisa, you and I were just talking about this a minute ago. What's relevant and not redundant? How far do we take a resume back? Reality is that most hiring managers are only looking at your last 7 to 10 years. But that doesn't mean you cut that previous work experience necessarily. Never sacrifice content for length. My resume is 2 pages, nothing wrong with that. I read a resume for a college student today. Biological sciences major at UCLA. His resume is 2 pages. He has too many good internships. Can't cut it. That's okay. If the content's relevant, not redundant, do that exercise. How do we develop the bullet points and the descriptors? At each step. And if you get to a point where the information is irrelevant, when I first graduated in Carolina, I worked for a company called First Tuesday Strategies as a project manager. It's not relevant to anything I want to do moving forward. It's just a footnote on the bottom of my resume. But if you have a story to tell, multiple industries that you've worked in, demonstrated career growth, show it. Don't just cut for the sake of cutting because of the relevancy of the last 10 years. So we put all this together, and now we're going to do the hard part. This is the hardest part of writing. It's your headline. Underneath the contact information, your resume headline. Now, we're a little out of order, right? We've done our contact info, we got our education, we've done our work experience, now we're going back on top. The reason why I always wait to do the headline and the summary last is because you have to get that introspective look at your career to really grasp your experience to put this together. You can say it's not an essay, it's what, 3 sentences, 4 lines, 3.5 lines? When you're putting this together, after you've done your resume, write down 3 words to describe yourself. For me, it's dynamic, profitable, passionate. You'll see that they're working into the summary. And utilize that in your experience, and how is it relevant to where you want to go? You'll see my headline title is Career Development Coach. If I'm applying for a job online, I'm always going to change that to whatever it is I'm applying for. If I want to go be a recruiter again, I change it to recruiter. If I want to go back into sales, business development manager. Mirror whatever it is you're applying for. It's replacing the old objective. Seeking a position as a business development manager. We know you apply. Underneath it, next is your skills section. I mentioned earlier tailoring the skills section with keywords from the job description. So what you want to do with this section is read through the job description and write down the keywords that stand out to you, and then mix and match this section. If I was applying for a career coaching job, and let's say the job description said interview preparation, I would change that interview coaching to interview preparation, just to further drive home the keywords from the job description on the resume. Now you got to be good at these. If a job asks you for, or asks me for Microsoft Excel, I can't put that there. I'm terrible at it. Every spreadsheet that Post Up Careers has is put together by my wife. And so make sure that they are actual strengths. Other resume best practices: make sure your name is in the file name. 70% of the resumes I see are just resume or numbers. I don't understand the numbers.
So this is sort of a silly question, but we all had to study a foreign language. Doesn't mean we excel in it. If we've got 2 or 3 semesters in college of a foreign language, are you putting working knowledge in Italian?
I would say if you can speak it conversationally, you can consider yourself proficient in it.
Put it on.
Obviously, if you're fluent, you want it in there. Always put it in that summary. I'm no longer proficient in German. At one point, coming out of Carolina, I was, and I had it on my resume. It's not there anymore because I haven't spoken it since 2012.
So there's a grace period after college.
Yes.
Like 2.5 years, then take it on.
Yep. Remove unnecessary fluff from your resume. Tasked with doing something. Tasked with selling services. Just say sell services. Tasked with business development. Develop business thing. Use a clean font. What's the most common font out there today?
Times Roman.
Yes, yes. If your goal is to stand out and everybody is using the same font, why would you use that same font?
Preacher habit.
Preach your habit.
Can't help it. I don't have a document I select all, change it.
Cambria, Calibri, Franklin Gothic book, not because that's my name. I love it for executives. Roboto, Helvetica, Century, those are some good ones that I like to use. I'll use Arial on occasion, just mostly because my kids love The Little Mermaid. But stay away from Times New Roman. Don't use like the cursive fonts. Stay away from those. Again, always use numbers when quantifying. Never spell them out. You want your LinkedIn profile on there. The first thing a recruiter is going to do after they look at your resume, if they want to move forward, is going to look you up on LinkedIn, make it easy for them. Proofread your resume, and then do it again. And then have a friend do it.
And then pay you.
Then they do it. A word processor knows how to spell development, knows how to spell business, knows how to spell accounting. It does not know your contact information, does not know your phone number, doesn't know your email address. It often will not differentiate they're there. So have somebody else do it and triple check your contact information. When I process a client's credit card, I always ask them to spell their name. Because a misspelled name will decline. And once a month, I get a client who's misspelled their name on their resume, which is stunning to think about. And then put this resume to work. Every job posting, the average job posting gets over 250 or more applications. Anywhere between 2 and 10% of those are going to get called in for an interview. So those odds aren't good, even with an incredibly impactful resume. 75% of jobs are still filled through networking. They're still filled through referrals. And so it's 2022, there's always going to be an element of an online search, but put it to work, get it in the hands of people that know you professionally and personally. So we put it all together, but we haven't actually seen it. I'm going to exit out of my presentation right now and just pull up that. Now take a look at that for 6 seconds. Oh boy, that's blurry.
Go to the Zoom. But see if that helps. There you go.
Did that help with the blurriness? But you see the structure of it, right? How much easier is that to read? The branding at the top. Anybody get any more out of that? That was a little bit more than 6 seconds, but.
Other than the branding, good structure.
I mean, look, hearing what you're saying and seeing that, it reminds me of when I have to do a PowerPoint deck for my bosses or my boss's boss. They don't want a million words.
No.
They want 2 bullets, 3 at the max, as few words because they don't have time to read everything. They want meat, they want to move on. And seeing that kind of like makes sense, because I was working on presentations. It's like trim out all those superfluous, words. I was just looking at my resume, comparing it, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just one of those things where a light comes on.
Your goal on a resume is to provide as much information possible in as few words as possible. What other questions do you guys have?
I know you mentioned how the one student had 2 pages for his resume. Like, you have 2 pages for your resume, but at what point does it do hiring managers or recruiters kind of dock you for having more than one page?
So I don't think anyone docks you for it, but I'll give you an example of a former client of mine. She went to Georgia, God bless her. Her resume was 2 pages when I read it for her. And then she got her first job out of college. And all of a sudden, the resume became 1 again. Because with her resume, we were highlighting, she had a bunch of internships and a bunch of relevant coursework that we wanted to highlight. That's why we went to 2 pages. When she got out of college and she got the first job, all of those coursework, gone. Didn't matter anymore. What was important was that first job. And we picked 1 or 2 of the internships. And so we took the resume from 2 to 1.
Do you ever leave any job off of your resume for any particular reason?
That is a highly debated topic among the resume writing community. I'm of the opinion that everything should be on the resume. Even if it's just a footnote. I mentioned my job at First Tuesday Strategies out of college. It's literally at the bottom of my resume. It's here. I can pull it up.
But there's a gap you have to fill in.
Not necessarily.
No.
'Cause I've been with my company for 15 years, and people ask, your last 10 years. It's like, well, it's just one company.
Right there. Additional experience in project management at First Tuesday Strategies in 2007.
That's your last. That
That was my first job out of college. It's technically working for Ron.
So it's not even a bullet. It's just
Nope,
sort of
it's just a footnote.
point.
It's hey, I did it. It's there, but it's not relevant.
Don't care if I scooped Brewster's ice cream in high school.
No.
Yeah.
My internship at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Carolina is
I've
not.
always struggled with that. Like all the work experience that I have, it spans more than just my engineering degree, but it's like I worked as a machinist for 10 years before I got my engineering degree.
See,
It matters,
Is that
but not really.
to me, I think it plays into the story. Though.
Yeah.
Like, I started my career recruiting engineering, and knowing that you were hands-on as a machinist,
Right.
got that degree. To me, it elevates you
Right.
because you've been in the nitty-gritty dirty
Yes.
on the floor doing the work, and now you got that. I mean, you had the technical knowledge because you did it. You got your degree. Now it's just at a higher level. And so to me, I think
Mechanical and technical and.
Right. So would you put that more as like a footnote or like?
after we're done, I'll look at your resume and tell you.
Okay.
That's why it makes a big problem.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Tucker? Any questions?
Todd, you got any questions, bud? Go get Cox.
Your next job?
All right.
Did you say whether or not the coursework should go at the bottom? Relevant coursework?
If it's relevant, yeah. Now, for you, I don't know that you need to list your coursework out. I mean, you graduated in what, 08? No, 11. No, 14. Sorry.
You get younger, girl.
Let's go on to continue.
Oh, good.
I graduated in 2020
Oh.
with my master's.
Oh, all right. So that's interesting. So I wouldn't put anything if you graduated in 2020 with your master's. Bachelor, would you get your bachelor's?
2016.
2016. Wow, that's way off. That see, the high school on the resume just threw me off. And I wouldn't put any of your bachelor's coursework on there. What was the master's then?
Public administration.
All right. Now, knowing that where you want to go, I might even have that at the top of my resume,
Okay.
listing out relevant coursework. Because you're looking to get into public administration, so that to me holds equal weight to your current role. And knowing how much the federal government loves an advanced degree, I think I might want to highlight that first.
What about people putting their GPA? At what point do you not do it? What point do you do it?
I think it's only relevant first couple years out of college if it's a 3.5 or above. You would have never seen my GPA on my resume at any point in time. Kendall, however, was a 4.0,
Yeah.
so hers was on there.
I think I had a
It doesn't
3.5
say the
one
degree,
semester.
or it doesn't say 4.0, it says summa cum laude.
Here's
Oh.
here's another point.
Get
Dude,
over that.
that was
Now here's a point about that.
heavy.
So he's fluent in Latin too. Nice.
Don't put magna cum laude, summa cum laude. Put the actual GPA. because
What?
90% of recruiters are like me. We scraped by in college if we got our degree, and we don't know what that means.
So is magna cum laude, is summa cum laude, does that mean like?
I don't know which one. I don't know the difference. I don't know which one.
Summa is 4, Magna is 3.5.
Okay. See, I'd rather see the GPA.
Or
than that.
3, so it depends on the school, but
Because you're trying.
So what if we were in Mensa?
I think it's backwards.
Summa is 4.0.
I was not in Mensa, by the way.
I don't think I'd put my Mensa membership on there. I put it on my LinkedIn profile.
I would. I was not. I was not a part of that fraternity.
All right, you three need to fill out a raffle ticket for our basketball.
Ooh, who done been signed?
Michi,
David?
Hayden Brown, and Daniel Hankins Sanford. I'll tell you a story about Daniel signing it. I was at the basketball facility. Just take sign it on the sign-in sheet.
Yep.
Put your
Okay.
first. And we'll just here. I was at the basketball facility dropping the basketballs off to Cary Ridge, and
You're the Coliseum?
yeah,
When was that?
maybe 3 weeks ago. I saw the volleyball facility as I was walking.
I was gonna say, we lived way early, but I always.
This was like
Well, it's
8
very
o'clock.
specific.
Yeah.
I love this.
And I'm waiting out front.
I was afraid I was gonna not get
Carrie,
over,
and
and I didn't know